gonna start off first with Saie Slip Tint. Now this is the shade 4, and I ended up purchasing 4 because one of you who is NC42, you are 4.5, and I thought 4.5 may be too deep for me. I am NC38, NC40. I ended up getting 4, which is the wrong undertone. So I can still wear this because the product is rather sheer. However, from an undertone perspective, this leans a little bit too pinky rosy. It doesn't have that warm yellow golden undertone that I'm normally used to. You can apply the slip tint with your fingers, you can work it in just like a moisturizer, but I actually find that the best finish is with a brush, and I love using the Spectrum Katie Hughes brush. This is number 08. That's the brush. It's very thin, and I feel like it just glides the product beautifully to the skin. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna give it a good shake, and then I'm just going to pop this on. And then all I do is just in very soft motions, I just work this product into the skin. Now I will first just glide it across, and then buff it out. It is very fluid and almost feels a little bit oily. So it is more of a dewy product. And you can see the shine on my face. It definitely is a dewy skin tint. Apply a bit more here. I think if you have dry skin, you're going to really love the Saie just because of how dewy this product is. Another great thing about the Saie is that this doesn't cling to my dry patches, and that's because it's very dewy, and every time I've used it there has been really no clinging to my dry patches. In terms of that undertone that I was talking about, now you can really see it on my skin. If I use a small amount you can't really tell, but here you can tell I've got no product on here. This is just my bare skin, and you can just see that undertone isn't quite right. It looks a little bit too rosy, a little bit too pink. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with NARS. For those of you who haven't seen my NARS video before, check it out. I have talked about this in detail, but of course we're going to talk about it today as well while we're doing this comparison. NARS is my favorite skin tint. I really love it. The shade is also really good. This is St Moritz, and St Moritz is perhaps a little bit on the lighter side, but I can still make it work. It still looks good on me. And NARS is also a very easy to use formulation. You can apply this with your fingers, but I definitely enjoy using this with a brush. And here I'm using the Hourglass foundation brush. And I'm just blending that out. And you can see that this NARS has a more natural finish. It is not as dewy as Saie. NARS also has a detectable scent. Saie did not. Now NARS has a very almost like a soft cream texture. It blends really easily, and it also doesn't really emphasize my dry patches. Now this here is Saie. It looks very dewy on the skin. And this here is NARS. Definitely a smoothing, natural finish skin tint. And I think you can see that is the primary difference between these two. This is dewy, very skin-like. This is a natural finish and offers that smoothing benefit, which you don't necessarily get with Saie, just because this is a lot more dewy, so it is going to enhance some of that skin texture. Now I've just gone in and added some concealer and powder under my eyes, and we're going to go ahead and apply the rest of the makeup so you can see in action how blushes, bronzers, powder actually apply on both these tinted moisturizers. Many of you have been asking me to do more makeup tutorials, so we're just going to do a quick eye look while I've got you here. I'm going to use the Laura Mercier Caviar stick. This is in the shade Cobblestone. It is just such a beautiful and creamy gray. It's stunning. I haven't shown this to you on camera before. I'm just going to show you what this looks like on my skin. By the way, if you haven't seen my best cream eyeshadow video, make sure to check that out. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply that everywhere. You can see just how creamy that color is. It's so beautiful. So I'm going to pop it all over the lid and just a little bit in the crease. Not too much. I'm gonna take my MAC 217 brush and just blend out that crease area. I'm gonna top up with a little bit more product. So I've got the gray on both my eyes, and now I'm gonna go in with Laura Mercier Caviar stick. This is in the shade Plum. And I'm just going to line my lash line with this shade. So I'm going to apply that right here. Then just taking a pencil brush, I'm just smudging this out. Then I'm going to take the Plum shade just on the pencil brush, and I'm just going to line that at the lower lash line. Just got that Plum shade just smudged in my lower and upper lash line on both sides. Now let's move on to the face. Now I want to use a powder bronzer on both of these tinted moisturizers to show you how that blends. I'm going to take NARS powder bronzer in the shade Laguna. This is the new Laguna version, which is better for warm skin tones than the original Laguna. This is the matte finish. In the NARS side first. And just apply that to the cheek. And the NARS side applies absolutely beautifully, both powder products and cream products, but I'm going to show you a cream as well. So this is the powder shade. It is so beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit more. And now I'm going to pick up some and apply on the Saie side. So this is the dewy side. I have not set it with powder. I'm going to go straight in, tap it in, and then blend. And what I found with the Saie Tinted Moisturizer is that it actually applies powder products really well. They don't stick. Sometimes I've had that issue that powder products will stick to more dewy formulations, but that has not been my experience. Now I'm going to kind of mix textures a bit, and I'm going to use a liquid blush. So with this look, I want to use my favorite pink blush, which is Rare Beauty Grace. I really love this color. Just a dot. Gosh, this color is stunning. And taking the Hourglass brush in number 2, I'm just going to pat it out. Now the Rare Beauty matte formulation is definitely a little bit difficult to work with. It's not the easiest blush. However, if you just take your time and pat it out, it will be fine. Gosh, that color is so beautiful. So the Rare Beauty blush has no issues with the matte side. It has blended in really beautifully. Again, just going to use a dot. Now I also haven't had any issues applying cream products on top of Saie. They tend to blend beautifully. They don't lift up the product underneath or anything like that. And they also mix well with when mixing powder and cream finishes. Got blush and bronzer on the NARS side. It blends out really easily, no issues there. And the same thing with Saie products, both cream, powder products, also blend out really easily, no issues. Now I am gonna now take the same blush shade, just on the back of my hand. And I'm gonna go back into my blending brush. So this is the MAC 217. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of product, and all I'm gonna do is apply that pink in my crease. And this is just going to help hide the eye look with the cheek. Just we've got a lot of blush on the cheek. And this is just going to make everything look cohesive. So just on the crease, but just a very, very small amount. Now I'm going to apply some powder so we can see how powder sits on top of both of these tinted moisturizers. I'm going to use the Charlotte Tilbury powder, which I use for pretty much every foundation review. And I'm going to start off with on the NARS side. So you can see my enlarged pores right here, and I'm just going to dab this powder. I'm also going to take it around my mouth. Also going to apply this to the forehead. Now I'm going to use the same powder and apply it to the Saie side. You can see my enlarged pores right here, very visible, and I'm going to pop good amount of powder in here. That looks much better. Whew. And I'm also going to apply it around the chin and the mouth area. Now I have used this powder before with both of these tinted moisturizers, and this powder works really well for both. I really haven't had any issues. And I'm going to go in and apply this on the forehead. And just going to make sure that is all patted in. This is the final look. We have NARS. And then Saie. And of course I will be doing a wear test, so I'll show you how these products last on my skin. I have combination skin, so we'll get into that shortly. But for now, which one do you like the finish of better? Which one do you think performs better? Now let's have a chat about these two formulations. I have created a bit of a table just to compare the two formulations. So let's go through that table. So the NARS Tinted Moisturizer is $45 US, and it comes in 50 ml bottle. Then you've got the Saie, which is $35 US at 40 ml. Now both of these, when you actually look at cost per ml, are exactly the same, so they will cost you the same. The shade range is very similar as well. NARS has 16 shades and Saie has 14 shades. For NARS, I am St Moritz, which is in fact a pretty good match for me. It can be on the little bit on the lighter side. However, once you blend it out, you apply your bronzer, I find that I can wear it without actually looking too light. So I enjoy the shade from NARS. The undertone is correct for me as well. In terms of Saie, the shade 4 that I picked up in Saie is just not the right undertone. It's the right shade intensity, but the undertone isn't quite right. So if I could go back in time, I would just purchase 4.5. Coverage for both of them, I do think that NARS has a little bit more coverage than the Saie. I think of NARS as more of a light coverage tinted moisturizer, whereas I think of Saie as more of a sheer coverage. If you're looking for something with a little bit more coverage, NARS may be that option for you. Now the finish for the two is absolutely very different. NARS has a very smooth, natural finish. It doesn't look dewy, it doesn't look matte, and it is also smoothing. So I really love the finish of NARS, particularly for my combo skin. The finish for Saie is really beautiful as well. I don't find it very smoothing. I think it is most definitely very dewy. It's beautiful. I really enjoy the finish of Saie, but it is not as smoothing as NARS. Which is fair enough, because dewier formulations will end up enhancing a little bit more texture. So if you're someone who has a lot of texture, I think you may struggle with Saie, because Saie may just enhance that. It has a very natural finish, and honestly any dewy formulation will end up enhancing texture, whereas matte tends to really flatten the skin and the light doesn't quite bounce off every little texture on your face. When it comes to textured skin, it is often better to lean towards more the natural finish, the more matte formulations just because any sort of dewy formulation will end up enhancing some sort of texture. However, if you're looking for a dewy finish, I think Saie is really beautiful. Application, both are absolutely easy to apply. For both of them, I personally love a brush application. You can use your fingers. For Saie particularly, I find that a brush just makes my skin looks a little bit better than if I was to apply it with my fingers. I'm not sure why that is. It could just be a personal preference, to be fair, but I just wanted to throw that out there. If you have Saie, I recommend maybe try it with a brush and see whether you're going to like it. Now, the SPF is different. NARS has SPF of 30, whereas Saie has SPF 35. I don't think that's a huge difference. It's going to be insignificant when it comes to sun protection. Now, the great thing about the Saie is that it is completely mineral. It has got the physical filters. It doesn't have any of the chemical filters. So if you have sensitive skin, you will find that Saie is actually a better option for you because it only has that physical filter. Whereas with NARS, it has a combination of both. It has the chemical and it has the physical as well. Either of these formulas do not have any drying alcohols, which is amazing. Fragrance, however, this is where Saie wins because Saie doesn't have any fragrance, which I love, and NARS absolutely does have fragrance. If you have sensitive skin and you know you can get irritated with fragrance, I would absolutely avoid NARS and consider Saie instead. Level of cakiness. Now, both of these formulations, I've been wearing NARS for some time now and Saie for the last few weeks, and I haven't found Saie to be cakey in any way. No matter how much I apply, Saie looks beautifully dewy on the skin all day long, and it has never looked cakey on me. Now, settling into fine lines, both of them will settle into my fine lines just a little bit, and that's why I popped in there minimal, because it is a very small amount, and because both of these are lighter coverage, you won't see a lot of settling with those pigments accumulating anyway. Now, clinging to dry patches is particularly important for me because I tend to get dry patches on my forehead, and both of these are pretty forgiving with dry patches. I don't find that one formulation will cling over the other. Both of them almost look the same. Oily areas. Now, because NARS, it has a natural finish and Saie has more of the dewy finish, and I have combination skin, I do tend to get shiny with Saie a lot quicker than I do with NARS. And so at NARS, for example, I will be shiny at the 4-hour mark, whereas with Saie, it will be earlier than that. It will be at the 3-hour mark that I will start to look pretty shiny. And normally what I would do is just blot or add some powder, and then I'm okay for potentially another 3 hours. Accentuate large pores. So either of these formulas do not accentuate large pores. Now, I know my pores look a little bit more visible with the Saie. That is just because it is a dewy formulation, and so the light is really reflecting off my pores and they look visible. However, it doesn't settle into pores. They don't accentuate pores. It's not like it's a type of formula that will make my large pores look even larger. So nothing like that. Both Saie and NARS do not accentuate or even settle into my pores. But in terms of oxidization, is quite interesting because NARS definitely doesn't oxidize. But Saie the oxidization is a little bit tricky. I feel like as I'm wearing this throughout the day, my skin looks just a little bit darker. Nothing huge, nothing to the point where I would say you need to pick up a lighter shade. Honestly, it hasn't made a big difference. And in terms of wear, both products wear well on my skin during an 8-hour day. And of course, let's move to the wear test now so you can see how these products wear. Hey guys, it's been exactly 4 hours and this is what my skin looks like. I have combination skin. I will normally get oily in my cheeks, on my forehead, and a little bit sometimes on the chin as well. So first we have the NARS side, and I'm definitely looking shiny from the NARS. And of course, I'm also looking shiny from the Saie. So this is the Saie side. Now let's move to the 8-hour check-in. Hey guys, so it's been 8 hours and this is what my skin looks like. I haven't added any powder and today I haven't even blotted, so I'm definitely very shiny. So this is NARS. and this is Saie. Perhaps the NARS side is a little bit more shiny than the Saie side, which is interesting. I was expecting it to be the other way around, but it definitely looks like I have gotten more shiny from wearing NARS. I'm just going to blot my cheeks. And I'm gonna blot my forehead and a little bit in the chin. I'm going to dim my lights and then we'll take a look. I've dimmed my light, so this is what my skin looks like. Here's NARS. Now the Saie. This is my forehead. And let's take a look around my laugh lines. So both products for me have worn really well throughout the day. In terms of wear time, I do get shiny with both. I wouldn't say these are oil controlling type of products. If you have combination skin, you will definitely need to blot. And I'm not sure if I would recommend these for oily skin types, because I think you will get perhaps a little bit too shiny. So perhaps these are the type of products I would only really recommend from combination normal to dry skin. NARS definitely has been a bit of a favorite for a while for me now, and I have to say, Saie is a very strong contender. I have definitely enjoyed this formulation. From the ingredient list to how it wears, it didn't even look as shiny as NARS, which was pretty amazing, especially for a dewy formulation. I think this is an amazing product. I also do think that if you are someone who has a lot of texture, I probably wouldn't recommend this, because any type of dewy formulations on very textured skin can really enhance that and make that really visible. So in summary, if you're looking for a dewy finish, I think Saie is fantastic. If you have textured skin, I think NARS would be better for you. If you have sensitive skin, I think Saie is a better option, just because it has a bit of a cleaner formula with no fragrance and a mineral sunscreen filter. I haven't had any issues with irritation or breakouts with either of these formulations. They both wear really well for me. And you know, my makeup is more or less still intact. In terms of fine line, both have minimal settling in my fine lines. Both really don't cling to my dry patches, so really I actually enjoy both. I will say though, on my good skin days, I tend to gravitate towards the Saie. However, on my not so good skin days, perhaps when I'm experiencing a little bit more texture than normal, I tend to gravitate towards the NARS. But I think both are fantastic options, and I hope I've given you enough information today to compare and contrast these two products to figure out which option may be best for you. Let me know what are your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. See ya!